Welcome to the Real Estate Bee with your guide and as a trusted real estate expert, Daniela Gnecchi.
Hello and welcome. Today I have the great pleasure of having Mr. David Stricht, Senior FX Analyst of Caxton Currency Exchange Agency in the UK, and I am in a very hot Spain. Today, this video is called How to Avoid Very Expensive Mistakes when Transferring Money to Spain. So this is a very, very important topic. First of all, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to my channel, to like the video, and to stay until the end because Caxton has a very generous offer for my subscribers and for all of you who are watching this video. So, David, thank you very much for being my guest today. And David, I would like to start with one question. When I talk to buyers who are not in the Eurozone, I always advise them to transfer their funds using your services to get in touch with you. But my experience is that UK buyers are extremely familiar with currency exchange services. But buyers in other countries, for example, in the US, I had several people telling me, oh, I don't need that because I use Revolut or Wise. So before starting our conversation, I would like you to please quickly explain the difference between currency exchange services and digital mobile banking services like Wise and Revolut, because it is not the same thing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Danielle. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me from an even, I wouldn't say even hotter UK, but certainly hot enough for me. But in terms of transferring money, we of course have a lot of new players, Wise, Revolut, Monzo, all of these different monosyllable places that'll offer it for you. What really sets us apart is firstly the offer of the analyst, and that is built into really our whole customer service function. Monzo, Revolut, if you ever have to call their customer services, even as someone who works at a competitor, I pray for you the best.
Yeah.
I hope you get what you want quickly, and I hope the issue is resolved. And I pray for you because I know that it won't happen. Whenever you try to speak to these companies, it's very difficult to talk to anyone who is actually on top of the problem, to talk to someone within the core business. At Caxton, that's simply not what we do. You can straight away get through to someone if it's an issue that pertains to a particular business area. Because of the size of Caxton, you can easily talk to the person who is right in the coalface of that area, perhaps even the head of that area. If you have a compliance issue, you can go and talk to a member of the compliance team. We can discuss the issue over the phone, get it resolved as quickly as possible. Not possible at these other places. And also, you'll have noticed, certainly some of them do a good job offering forwards, a type of hedging contract. However, for real support, these are big transactions, and these are big transactions, Danielle, that people are doing. If you're deciding to uproot your life from the United States and moving to Portugal or Spain, this is a huge decision, and you need support with it. Monzo and Revolut, the best support they can offer you is a nice chart in front of your face. If that's all the support you need, then perhaps you won't get much out of us. But if you want something that's going to take your money, take it as seriously as we take our own money, somewhere that's prided itself on offering this support to clients, on discussing markets, taking the complexities of markets and making them digestible by you, the customer, then Caxton is really where you belong. You get an absolute free line to meet, whether you're an existing client or a prospective, you're just someone wondering what's going on in markets. My phone is always on. I can promise you that, even for late calls from the United States, early calls from the Far East, I'm always near my phone. It's what I enjoy. And also, on a final point, slightly more serious point, Caxton has never been, we are fully regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority of the United Kingdom. We have always been compliant. There's never been any issues between us and the regulatory authorities. Monzo and Revolut, there are fines both in the works and have already been issued. The Lithuanian authorities for anti-money laundering procedures. This is all public documentation. And so if you want to rest assured with good support, confident that if anything does go wrong, you can quickly get it settled by talking to our team. And indeed, you want to know that your money is safe when you put your head down to sleep at night. Always think of Caxton first. Well, great question. Thank you very much.
No, that's absolutely. I agree because I was using actually one of these mobile banking. I had a problem.
Yes.
No one helped me.
No,
No one helped
no,
me. In the end, I had to close the account actually.
absolutely.
And on the other hand, my clients who worked with Caxton have been very, very satisfied. They said that you were absolutely amazing. So
Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
yeah, I can testify that what David says is absolutely true. Their support is outstanding, and that's what sets them out. Because, as David said, when you transfer so much money, the last thing you want is to have problem or to be left on your own when you have problems. So, David, the number of foreigners who are buying properties in Spain is beaten all the records.
Yes.
So the transfer of the funds is becoming a big part of the process. Can you please explain what are the most expensive mistakes that someone can do when transferring money to Spain?
Absolutely. It's a great question, Danielle. And the most expensive we've encountered, a hidden cost, if you like, is not paying full attention to the foreign exchange values. I'm delighted to see Spain doing so well, of course, with so many expats, particularly from the United States, given various political ongoings. Also, Portugal, the Golden Visa scheme, has worked wonders for Portuguese investment moving to Portugal as well. So it's great to see the Iberians doing so well at the moment. The most expensive mistake by far is not paying any attention to foreign exchange. It's such a big, complex move. You know, in Portugal, at least, I'm not overly familiar with Spain's visa programs, but Portugal, there's an investment aspect. You have to invest $150,000 in Portuguese assets, or slightly below, it depends. You have to buy property in certain areas. There has to be all kinds of legal clearances. With so much going on, it's not a surprise that people sort of neglect the foreign exchange aspect of the equation, but it's one that's really key. And it's really best explained with an example. I was speaking to a gentleman from the United States, again, San Francisco Bay resident. So again, late night calls. It was, after dinner, I'd sit near the phone and talk to this gentleman. Very smart, very clued on. He was keen on moving to Portugal. He was various family, particular family issues, particular financial questions. Very keen on moving to Portugal. As it turned out, he was going on holiday 2 weeks in April, and I said, "We need to be very careful here. We have the Liberation Day tariffs, if you'll cast your mind back, and we really need to pay attention. It's about $2 million we're discussing. A small movement can really, give you a lot less spending cash and mean that you have to reinforce the home purchase, and that being just moving more cash for the home purchase. It'll be fine, David. Don't worry, don't worry. Don't do anything until you've talked to me." Gentleman goes on holiday for 2 weeks. I believe he goes to somewhere in South America for a lovely holiday. And in those 2 weeks, we saw the dollar drop by 4.5% in value because of Trump's actions regarding the tariffs. That's $90,000 on his end. And now, perhaps you're a wealthier gentleman than me, and a wealthier gentleman than the gentleman I was talking about, because he didn't find it amusing at all when he returned. But I can't leave $90,000 on the table. It's just not possible. But he had to go ahead with the transaction. Timings required him to, the house purchase was ongoing. Those people were saying, well, where's the money for this house? And Portuguese authorities for certain deals, certain, sort of commitments. He had to fund the money for that. He had no choice but to go ahead. This kind of thing does sort of damage the requirement. It does damage overall the cash you have. Spain, similar situation. Spain's doing particularly strong at the moment. And the economy, of course, is rip roaring away, one of the best performers of 2025 so far. And again, all of this is tied into the euro. The euro's had a very volatile year. It's the most volatile year since 2022. Not paying attention to these kinds of drops, the euro dropped 2.5% on the news that we're going to get a 15% tariff on all Eurozone goods. All of this feeds through. Not paying attention to this can very quickly shave large amounts of the money that you expect to be receiving upon arriving in that country. There's nothing worse than arriving in Spain, everything's sorted, the weather's beautiful, and realizing that in fact the dollars or the pounds or the krona that you anticipated you'd be getting, you're 5% off because you didn't pay enough attention. So that's where Caxton really comes in. We pay attention to these things so that you don't have to. In a complex procedure like moving to Spain, the last thing you want is to be worrying about yet another thing. And that's where we come in. You can just offload all that concern onto us.
Yeah. That's thank you. That was a very, very good answer. And thank you also for giving this practical example of this poor buyer who lost all this money. And it's not just in my experience. Yes, of course, you lose money. But I had a client, for example, around 3 years ago who was buying. He was living in the US and he was buying a property in Barcelona, and he made the first transfer for his down payment transaction. He made the first transfer via his bank, and the bank blocked the transfer. It was a major bank in the US. The bank blocked the transfer because they didn't understand what the transaction was about. And he almost lost the purchase because it took them weeks to unblock these funds, and the sellers were getting fed up with waiting weeks and weeks for money that should have arrived within 2 weeks. So it's not just you lose money, but you could even lose the whole transaction. So,
absolutely,
talking about banks, a lot of people use banks for the funds for the transfers because out of habit or because they don't have time to investigate other options. What are the hidden fees and the unfavorable exchange rates that buyers face when they transfer the money through the banks or digital banks instead of using a currency exchange agency?
Absolutely. Great question, Danielle. Most people lock in with banks simply out of psychological being used to it. Now, of course, the question becomes, when have banks ever taken advantage of us? Which shouldn't take you too long to figure out. They probably don't have your best interests at heart. They're so used to having you often. No, they're so used to having you as a retail client, so used to having you as perhaps a small commercial client, that in our experience of people from who have been working with banks, unless you have millions to move, which some of our clients, I'm sure yours and ours, Danielle, some of them do, they do. But most are people, in the high hundreds of thousands who are just looking to buy a new property. They want to move to Spain. We're not talking about extremely rich people. We're talking about people who have a little bit of money. They're clever, but they're not moving tens of millions like a big business. They're not they're not the CEO of Johnson and Johnson's, let's say. So what the banks tend to do is very simply take you for granted. They'll give you a flat fee of somewhere around 3%. It does vary between various banks, but very rarely so it's attractive. And as well, of course, look, I get on as personal friends with a great many people as boring as me who are into the analysis of currency as much as me. I go to the bar with them. Sometimes I'll even go on holiday with them. But you won't get to speak to the really good ones unless you are moving tens of millions, which good for you. But if you're just the average sort of client who's moving around hundreds of thousands, they're not going to give you any support in the transaction. If you call up, I remember a client said one of the favorite lines I've ever heard. Whenever I call up this huge UK bank, all they ever say is, well, you should do it now. Of course, now's the right time. Um, now is always the right time.
Always.
If I ring him tomorrow, he'll say, now's the right time. Now's an even better time. So these banks, as cliche as it is, you are just a number. At Caxton, we're smaller. We're nice. We're a nice and tight company, and each of our clients, they do matter. We don't have the hundreds of thousands of millions of clients that big banks do, so it really does matter. Your money matters to us as much as it matters to you, and that's how seriously we take each transaction. That's how seriously I take my analysis. I would never give anyone analysis I wouldn't take on my own. Um, and so there's certainly fees. It's more expensive for less support. So we like to say it's double the expense. You're getting more expensive in terms of the margin. You might as well go into the post office and change it there. And it's also more expensive in that you get no support. You get no analysis, which may say, well, look, this situation tomorrow might break in our favor. We could maybe get another 0.5%. You don't get that unless you're moving tens of millions with these big banks. So overall, it's cheaper with us. It's cheaper in terms of the margin. It'll cost you less to purchase the same amount. And also you get to talk to me, you get to talk to our various functions, and you'll be confident of the decision you can own. And instead of just taking, well, it's always best to trade today. Talk to me, we'll talk through it. What do you want? It's more of a personalized service with us.
Of course. Thank you for that. Yeah, I agree. And also Spanish banks, they are very solid,
Yes.
but they're very expensive. They charge,
exactly. Yeah.
They charge to receive money from abroad. So when a foreigner transfers money to their Spanish bank account, they have to pay commission just to receive money. And this with you either doesn't happen at all or reduces these commissions a lot. So it's another way to save money. You touched before on the currency fluctuations, which is something, especially now, very, very actual with everything that's going on. And the dollar euro has been going up and down, the exchange rate. Yeah. How does this affect the transfer when someone transfer funds? How does this problem of the currency fluctuations make a dent in the budget of the buyer?
Absolutely no. It's a good question, and it's one that sounds deceptively simple, but it actually isn't. That is to say, if you are moving money across abroad, if you've made the wise decision to go from the United States or the United Kingdom into Spain, why would a movement in the euro, why would something said by Christine Lagarde at the ECB in Brussels, how would that affect my move to Spain? Well, it will, and it does. An example, of course, as always, that things have been moving in favor of the euro recently. The euro's become more expensive. If you're moving from the United Kingdom or the United States into the eurozone, anywhere in the eurozone, whether you're going to Spain or way over to Croatia or somewhere, this does practically have an effect. The euro has had a strong year. What does this mean practically? It means that the amount you get, you might have £30,000 moving to Spain. If Christine Lagarde comes out and says the ECB's interest rate, we're going to keep it steady, as she came out only a month ago and said, well, then the euro is going to be stronger. You're getting less euros for your pounds. Your money in real terms is worth less. So this is really key to pay attention to. I spoke about the dollar seller, the San Francisco Bay gentleman, moving to Spain. All of that, he was caught out quite significantly. It was a $2 million move into the euro, certainly. It was a large amount, but 90,000, having 90,000 less euros than you expected you would get. It's even if you have $2 million, still 90,000. It's quite substantial. It's a lot less spending cash. What could you do with 90,000 euros? Probably a lot.
A lot, definitely.
I know you could with pounds. You could, there's very little you couldn't do really with £90,000. Certainly in terms of spending cash. So all of this matters. it does matter because even if you go on a 2 week holiday and you're not paying attention to the updates I give you, um, well, things you come back, you can't be surprised when all of a sudden your dollar has went from being worth €1.20 to €1.15. Well, it's a five, so who cares? Well, if you're doing 2 million, you're doing 3 million. It does matter. It's quite a massive jump, in fact. So they do materially make a difference. In the most simple terms, if currency moves out of your favor, moving to the Eurozone and Spain, if it moves out of your favor, you're going to have to either accept that when you arrive, you'll have less money, or front up more of the domestic currency to fulfill all the euros you need. That's the only two ways that can go. If the exchange rate weakens, especially if you have a house purchase, you're either going to have to somehow work out a deal with the people selling the house, which again, good luck to you. Or you're going to have to front up more of the local currency, whether that's dollars or pounds or yen or whatever it may be. You're going to have to put in more. So the name of the game is always, hopefully, I'm moving to Spain. Hopefully, we see the dollar strengthens 4% in the lead up. And then, we'll see. I'll get more bang for my buck, essentially. So these are practical. These are big changes. Since the start of the year, the dollar's down 12%. Well, if you were planning to move to Spain at the start of the year and then you're looking again now, you're thinking, well, it's just got 12% more expensive in a way. Now there are ways you can protect yourself against these. There's various hedging opportunities, but it's something that, again, I must stress, should be in your mind. It is a key part of the transaction, and ignore it at your own peril. But yeah,
that's absolutely, that's a big issue. And I actually had buyers. I was talking to buyers in the US who decided to put their purchase on hold just because of the fluctuations between dollar and euro. So going more specifically into your services, how can Caxton practically help buyers with these currency fluctuations? Do you have, of course, you send regular updates and forecast about what is going to happen, but how can you actually help buyers work around this? Do you have a way to mitigate somehow these changes in the exchange rates?
Absolutely. The first line of defense would be myself and our tremendous account managers. I've studied economics and finance at a top 5 university in the UK, graduated with honours. So I've been doing foreign exchange, been doing this job for nearly half a decade now, which means I'm fresh-faced enough to come up with ideas, but old enough to also know what's going on. That's how I like to present it. Also, our account managers, of course, we all work in London. We speak very frequently. We speak every day, all day, essentially, and we discuss the market. We discuss what we see. A lot of them have experience, and there's members of our team who have over a decade's experience in foreign exchange. Many of them were educated in it at university, so there's a vast array. If you count us together, there's probably over 100 years of foreign exchange experience in our client-facing teams. So you can rest easy in knowing that you're talking to a real professional about the foreign exchange market. Now, for the second part of the question, in terms of what can we offer, of course, we've got all that experience, so we can make reasonably good estimations of what's going to happen. We know what releases to look out for. We know what the dangers are. We know what the opportunities are. But also, if we take that one step further into practical, beyond just advice and you thinking over what do I need to do, practical protection for yourself, we do offer a wide range of hedging solutions. We do have the classic old forward, of course, which means you get to lock in a rate. If you're moving from London to Madrid, let's say, you can lock in an exchange rate that's attractive for the euro or one that you're comfortable with. And what a lot of our clients that are relocating to Spain like to do is they like to lock in that rate just so they know, it's a 9 deal, it's a 9 month, or we'll sit on, you've guaranteed that rate. You only have to present a small deposit. You can keep the rest of the cash, put it into something that bears interest. So it's a more cash efficient method. And then at the end of this period, however so long you like it to be, you'll give us the full amount and we'll return to you the euros equivalent to what the exchange rate was that day we agreed. So for clients, it takes that worry off their mind. You don't have to worry about foreign exchange anymore. That has been locked in. You know what you're going to get 12 months, 9 months, 6 months out from the deal. You know what exchange rate you're getting. You've calibrated the perfect number of euros you want, and you still get to keep upwards of 90% of the transaction in pounds or dollars or whatever you so desire for the period of the contract. So you can put it into something, earn a 4% interest rate, and then only give us the cash. So that's also very popular with our relocating clients in that it just takes something off their mind and it allows them to take advantage of short-term opportunities that offer long-term cash rewards.
But that is, I believe that is really the game changer, because basically by working with you, a buyer would be, first of all, advised, because you have a global picture of what is going on. I'm sure you also have systems to predict what's going on, if the US does this, if the European Commission does that, how this is going to affect the exchange rate. So you can, you have a very wide vision of the situation. You can advise the clients on when is the best exchange rate, and as you explained now, the buyer can block this reserve, let's say this exchange rate, for an amount of time. So even if they transfer the money when their own currency has lost value, they can still convert the money using the favorable exchange rate, which is really, this makes a big difference. You mentioned the word hedging. Can you just explain this term for people who are unfamiliar with the term, and how, what does it mean, and how it would help, for example, a US buyer?
Certainly, absolutely, Daniela. Well, hedging, of course, a lot of it comes from, very simply, think of the gambling hedging, in that you are cutting what are you doing? You're cutting your risk as much as possible. If you hedge your bets, you're trying to win regardless of the outcome. And that's very similar to what it is in foreign exchange, although it's less gambling, of course. In fact, what you're doing in foreign exchange when you do hedge is the opposite of gambling. You're saying, I will forego the opportunities that the future may have in order to make certain that I have now, that I'll get what is available now, even in the future. So if we were a US buyer, let's say, and the dollar had had a particularly good month against the euro, unemployment fell, GDP was up. At the same time, Christine Lagarde came out and said, we're going to be dropping Eurozone interest rates. Everything's gone perfect. The dollar is trading at a 2 month high against the euro. Things are going swimmingly. What you might then think is, well, we've got this 2 month high. We're strong against the euro. I think the Eurozone is going to be strengthening into the future. I think their economy is getting stronger. Unemployment is very low across the zone. And in the United States, there's so much, who knows what's going to happen. So I'm going to cut my risk. I'm going to say, I don't need to worry about what Trump says, what Lagarde says, XYZ. I'm going to lock in this rate now, and then I'll receive it in the future. And regardless of what the rate is at that time, if the dollar has fallen through its ceiling and suddenly we're at 130 in euro dollar, you get $1.30 if you trade a euro. What you're doing is protecting yourself from that risk. It's especially useful in moving to any area in the Eurozone. Spain is what most of our clients do, moving to Spain. And they like it just because it means that we don't need to be worried, when the deal comes to buy the house. We're not worrying, oh, the exchange rates fall and we have to stump up more pounds, they can go, no, it's okay. It's all settled. We know the exact amount we're going to have 9 months, 6 months, 12 months in advance. And so you are right, that is the game changer. Certainty at a time when moving, you're full of uncertainty. So it's the only certainty you're really offered. A good question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very, very important. And I would feel very reassured if I had this type of guarantee that whatever happens, I'm not going to lose like 90,000 like your poor client.
Yes.
About the timing, when should a buyer start planning their currency strategy? Let's say someone decides to buy a property in Spain. Should they start talking to you right away, or should they wait, for example, the moment when they have found the property, they have to make the reservation, transfer 10,000 to block the property? So at the moment of making the payment, they contact you and start talking about it.
Certainly, yes. It's a good question, and I would say as soon as they start thinking about moving. Very simply, I know that is slightly complex for people. I know it's a long way off, it may seem, but it's an invaluable insight. This is what makes everything a lot cheaper. If you decide that you want to move and lock in an exchange rate at, let's say, 20% higher than the exchange rate is by the time you actually move, well, you've got 20% more spending cash. That's a bigger house. It's one with a swimming pool, maybe. It's certainly more cash to enjoy, leisure activities, whether it's, going to the beach, etc. These are all practical, they sound small, but when you're moving, the last thing you want is the pension fund you've paid into for 50 years, let's say. All of a sudden, just because of a foreign exchange fluctuation, it's worth 10% less than it ought to be, than it was the month prior, let's say, as has happened to some of our US clients. So I'd say exchange or have it in the mind as quickly as possible. Reach out to us. I cost nothing to call. There's no estimation of future business when you call me. It's just you're calling me, and we'll consider it just all consultations are complimentary. So you can call me as much as you want and try and get some clarity. So it's a really major consideration, and as well. Generally, if you give me, I think the only figure we've done is 6 months. Over a 6 month period, I can get the best rate for you about 92% of the time. If you only give me 2 weeks, that drops to about 60% of the time. So, it's just much harder. If you have no releases, a lot of it relies on sort of very small speculative rallies. And so all that bites in. So that figure, we go from about 90% of the time we're going to be getting the best rate within 6 months to 60% high 59s. And that's when you think, if only this person would have been aware of it sooner, we could have got, he'd have 6% more cash at the end of this. But oh well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's something, as you say, it's something that the buyer can start considering as part of their transaction from the very beginning. And as I often tell my clients, you, depending on how much is the price of the property you are buying, you can buy the furniture with what you save by using a currency
Absolutely.
exchange.
It's a good way to put it.
Even or whatever you want to use the money for, why give it to the banks instead?
Exactly.
This is the point. So one last question, please, David. Let's say I am a US buyer and I am buying a $300,000 new development property on the Costa Blanca.
Right.
What is the process of starting to working with you, and more or less on a budget between $300,000, $400,000 or euros? How much more or less on average can I expect to save by working with a currency exchange agency with you instead of just transferring the money through my bank?
Absolutely. Well, on a big transaction like that, we'd be looking at a cost savings probably, I can't give you an exact figure because it would depend on the
No,
market
just more or
conditions,
less.
but we'd probably say tens of thousands, which again, I'm going to steal that from you, Danielle. You can buy the furniture. Um,
Yes.
the exact process would work through. You'd either talk to me or one of our account managers or representatives, all of whom are very well trained in the market, all of whom as well, it's not just about the market, are well trained in compliance procedures, in customer service. So you get the real full roundabout. You'd submit some documents, just sort of proving identity, proving address, because again, we've never been in trouble with compliance authorities, and we don't intend to anytime soon. So all of those are pretty regular if you're dealing with us. And then it would be as simple as you could, after that's all approved, usually on the same day that you apply, we'll look at the documents, and we'll approve the account. You could, if you wanted to, go straight ahead and trade. More likely, you can call me at any time. You can call me before the account's set up. Even if you don't want to set up an account, you can call me and we'll discuss what would be a good jumping off point for you in particular, where the opportunities are. After you set up the account, you'd probably talk to me again. I'd offer you some daily updates, unless I genuinely thought now's the best time. Tomorrow things are going to fall off a cliff, which has happened, but is pretty rare if you're aware, if the client is aware of what's going on. Um, and so from there, you'd essentially be in total control. You'd be getting my daily updates. You'd be getting any personalized updates you wanted, even if we're talking about Thai baht, yen, something crazy, or South African rand into euros for moving to Spain. We cover all kinds of currencies at Caxton, all the G10 and beyond. So it would be a very simple process. Probably take you, if all the documents were submitted promptly, a day to set up a new account. You could talk to me on the same day, and then you could have your currency strategy set up also to the point where you're confident, you're relaxed, and you know what's going on.
That's very good. So if you had one last piece of advice for a foreigner who has to transfer money to Spain to buy a property, what would that be?
I know there's never been a better time, but in terms of currency, I would say that probably the one best piece of advice was don't forget we haven't even had a year of Trump. He's only been in for 7 months so far, and the last time I checked, the president was in for 4.
Yeah,
So we've got a long way to go. Don't think that the
it's
worst
a
is
bit
behind
a
us.
roller coaster, eh?
Exactly, exactly. We've got at least another 3 years of this, slightly over considering he was only inaugurated in January, and in August it feels like it's been far longer to me. But don't underestimate, and don't underestimate the impact that Trump can have on the euro and on sterling and on a variety of other currencies, because the decision he's making really do affect the entire world. But I'd say don't rest on your laurels. Don't be too relaxed about foreign exchange risk. That it has bitten people in the past and will continue to do so into the future, being caught out by not managing it properly.
Thank you very much, David. This was really an amazing
Thank
conversation, and
you.
I'm sure my viewers are very happy about this. I would like to tell you that Caxton is offering you a free consultation or the download of their hedging guide. All you have to do is click on the link that is below in the description. It is a direct contact with Caxton through my agency, the Real Estate Bee. Be aware that I don't have access to any of your data. It's just a link that connects you directly with Caxton. And by contacting them through this link, they will offer you a free consultation and you can download this hedging guide. And of course, David and his colleagues are at your disposal. As you have seen, it is extremely, extremely helpful. You can save a lot of money. You can buy the furniture. And not only that, but it's also the transaction itself in general is much safer, and your funds are always protected because, of course, the currency exchange agency work with banks. So the money is not in their account, it's still protected by banks. So it is always a very, very safe transaction. They are super controlled, as David explained. So David, thank you very, very much for being with me today. I hope we will speak again in the future. Enjoy a mildly hot London. And thank you very much for all the information you share with us today. That was
Not at all. Thank you very much, Danielle.
Thank you.